Hi, my name is Shire Jules and I'm 18 years old. I've been living with a primary immune deficiency for all my life. When I was 7 months old, I had a torn toenail that got infected and didn't want to go away. My parents didn't know what to do, and they took me back to the hospital where I was born, the San Francisco's hospital in Rotterdam. But there, they also didn't know what to do. Somehow the Sophia Child Hospital got hold of our story and told us to come here. Then they discovered I had XLA. From that moment on, my life would change forever. Because I was 1 year old, the change didn't really get to me because I was a baby. So there was no real change for me. From where I can remember, I don't know better. Since then, I have gotten infusions every 3 weeks, but that fluctuated. Sometimes a shorter period of time, sometimes a longer period of time, for the rest of my life. The first 15 years of my life, I went to the Sophia Child Hospital Polyclinic for every 3 weeks to get my infusion. I had to get free from school in the morning. For me as a child, I didn't find it frustrating or the worst thing in the world to go to the hospital. I sometimes even enjoyed going to the hospital because I didn't have to go to school, and the hospital was most of the times pretty fun. When I was very young, my parents gave me a present every time I got my infusion. That worked for me. In the hospital, at some point, they also had a very big television screen with a lot of gaming consoles, which I didn't have at home, so that was also a plus point to go to the hospital. I also played a lot of football with my dad, and sometimes I brought a friend with me. One day, I wanted to show my class why I was absent so constantly. So the teacher and I set up a Skype conversation, and I Skyped with my class while I was at the hospital. And one day, I even took my teacher to the hospital to show her what was going on. In the hospital, however, they weren't very good at inserting the infusion. So this one time, they had to try 7 times. Having a needle go in and out your arm for 7 times when you're a 7-year-old kid is horrible. So the hospital let me choose a gift. And I chose this fluffy penguin, which I called Pricky. And after that, I couldn't sleep without Pricky until I was 14 years old. So I slept my whole life with this fluffy penguin, which I got from the hospital. So that was a nice gift. I still have him today. It's a little bit dead, but I still have him. All with all, my hospital times weren't that bad at all. I actually sometimes enjoyed it. When I was 15 years old, I switched to home care, which was the best idea ever. It was comfortable, I didn't have to travel to the hospital, and my nurse was way better than all the nurses together at the hospital. It was such a relief, especially because I was at the age of 15 and the hospital seemed a bit childish. This way I had way more time left at the day of the infusion, so I had more time to do other things, and my infusion became less of a big deal. I was just sitting at home and I could get my infusion and I could get friends over and we chilled or gamed or watched a movie or whatever I could do. It's just very, very comfortable. And I still have home care to this day, and it's the best. People may think that I'm very restricted in the things that I can do because I have a primary immune deficiency. But like I said, I'm okay with it. So I just do what I like. I've played hockey since my 6th year. I worked at a supermarket, at a restaurant, and now I work at a supermarket in a creative agency. I've worked in a supermarket, I've worked in a restaurant, and now I work at a creative agency making films. I went to regular schools all my life. I do a lot with my friends, chilling, gaming, going to parties, making music, you name it, I do it. I play ukulele. Guitar, play piano, and even went to theater school. I sometimes go to festivals. Or other big events. I seem like a normal, average guy. However, there are some restrictions. When I was young, the worst restriction that I had was that I wasn't allowed to go into the ball pit. Also, I wasn't allowed to eat ice cream from a machine. Raw meat, like filet américain, and raw fish like sushi were also very risky, and even today that's still a struggle to not eat those. All of the restrictions I just mentioned were restrictions because they either have a lot of bacteria in them or on them. When we would go on holiday, I always had to be extra cautious because bacteria are everywhere. Especially campings, poor countries and big people masses are very risky. In the past, I always had to bring a letter from my doctor with me on holiday, because if something were to happen with me, the local doctors then knew what to do with me and how to treat my primary immune deficiency. Now, I have this letter on a USB card in like 7 different languages, and I can just take this with me and I have the letter always with me. And it's a USB stick, as you can see. Prejudices. A lot of times in the past, I didn't feel the need to tell people what was going on. I looked normal, so why distort that view with possible prejudices? That's a very hard word to pronounce. Prejudices. I didn't want to be different from others. It, however, was certainly important that my surroundings knew what I had, so they could react in certain situations the way they should, with a primary immune deficiency. So when I was young and I had to explain what I had, my illness is very complicated, so I had to find a way to tell my friends and other people who didn't really understand it. So this is what I told them. Everybody has a factory in his body, and that factory is producing little soldiers that fight illnesses. The thing is that my factory is broken, so I'm not producing those little soldiers. The solution? I get those little soldiers from other people. Long story short, I can easily live with a primary immune deficiency, even though there are some drawbacks. The only things are that I have an infusion once in a while. I have to be extra cautious with hygiene. I already wash my hands automatically. I have less freedom than a healthy person. And the illness is always there in the background. But like that implies, it's in the background. I band it to the background. I don't want to think about my illness all the time. I just want to live the life of a normal, average, healthy boy. But then with more mindfulness about my illness, maybe. So in certain situations I will think about it. And I can say, with my 18 years of experience with a primary immune deficiency, it's easy to live with a primary immune deficiency.